want to get in the way of the credits because there's people in the audience whose names are probably in here.
Well, you can have a seat here. We're getting another chair out.
Great.
So that's going to go, and then, so you can read the credits while we have a little chat. But thanks for coming, and so I guess first things first, tell everybody who you are, and then how you came up with the concept for the Demonatrix.
My name is Aurelio Voltaire. Most people know me as a musician. I played last night here in Jacksonville at a place called the Albatross. And I started as a stop motion animator a million years ago. Well, when I was 10 years old, I got a Super 8 camera, started making stop motion films. And I always thought I was going to grow up to make monster movies. Somehow, I ran away from home when I was 17. I went to New York City. I got a job working at the place that was making a show called Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I became a stop motion animator. About 20 years later, stop motion died. It became impossible to get a job as an animator, and I picked up a guitar and I learned how to write songs, and that is how I ultimately embarked on this career of music. And now, 50 years later, literally 50 years later, I've come full circle and I finally made that monster movie I always wanted to make, which was not the question you asked. So the way I came up with the idea for this film is that about 10 years ago, I had a very good friend who was a dominatrix. And she was one of the most sophisticated, cultured, intelligent people that I'd ever met. And I'd go to her house to have dinner, and directly across the street there was a Catholic church. And it used to just tickle me thinking, like, I wonder what the priest over there thinks is going on over here. Because there would be clients coming in and out, and she would be dressed in these incredible outfits. And subsequently, the Demonatrix was born.
So write what you know.
Write what you know, exactly.
That's good.
She summoned an incubus demon back then, and it was a disaster.
Did she know that you made this movie about her?
I don't know if she knows that. I was just thinking about her because this is now our fourth or fifth screening at a film festival, and I talk about her all the time. So I need to send her an email and say, hey, you should probably see this movie I made about you.
Oh, that's good. So that's enough out of me. Do we have anybody in the audience that has a question for Mr. Voltaire? All right, we got one over here. I got you.
Hi, Aurelio.
Hola.
There's so many questions, but for me, the most important one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what did Mayumi rate your accent throughout the movie?
Fun fact, so I was born in Cuba, I'm Cuban, but I live in New York City and Mexico City, and my fiance is Mexican. Can we turn down my mic a little bit, please? Thank you. I think we're just on the verge of some feedback. Thank you very much. So my fiance is Mexican. The Mexican accent wasn't the problem. I watched a lot of Guillermo del Toro interviews, which I would be watching anyway, and that's kind of how I came up with the accent. And also I live in Mexico City. The hardest part was speaking Spanish, because as a Cuban, I speak with a Cuban accent when I speak Spanish. And when my fiance saw the film for the first time, when we get to the sermon scene, where I do actually speak in Spanish, she was like, there's a couple of words in there that don't sound Mexican. And I had to go in and ADR it. Like I had to go in and re-record a couple of words in the sermon because of that. Porque yo soy cubano, yo hablo así, coño, ¿qué te pasa? That's how I have a Cuban accent.
Anybody else? Oh, here, I gotta go all the way in the back first and find out too. Steps in.
I saw the credits that you were credited as a sculptor. Were those did you do every version, like the mummified one, then the more juicier one, and then you actually did you like animate it through that?
No. So I only sculpted one thing in this film, and that was the Pazuzu statue. So when I was in Mexico City, we were shooting the flashback and I needed a Pazuzu statue. And you know, they made one that you could buy from the movie Exorcist, but we don't have the rights to use it, so I had to sculpt my own. So I went down to El Centro and I bought Super Sculpey and I made the mold. And then the special effects company that made all of the effects in Mexico, they made a silicone mold, they cast it in resin. They made like 5 or 6, copies of it because the little boy drops it. And we had to make sure that it could break and we could keep going. But no, the Incubus demon, the main demon, was played by Nivik Ogre, who was the lead singer of a band called Skinny Puppy. And if you don't know him from that, you may know him as Pavi Largo from Rebo, the Genetic Opera. And that demon suit was made by Norman Cabrera, who's one of the top Hollywood, special effects guys. He worked on Hellboy for Guillermo del Toro. He worked on Ghostbusters Afterlife, Star Trek Beyond. A film a little bit closer to this one called Satanic Hispanics. So he's a really, really great effects artist. And then the demon in Mexico was made by Maquillaje Effects, the president of which is Roberto Ortiz, and they basically do all of the best monster effects in Mexico. And then, believe it or not, the little desiccated minor demon was an art piece that I bought in Sweden when I was playing there. And it was in an art show at the same festival where I was playing, and I loved this thing, and I spoke to Jan Peterson, the artist, and I said, I'm gonna buy this, but I want you to know that I'm gonna write a movie about it, and it's gonna be in the movie. And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just buy it. and so, truth be told, like 15, 20 years later, that movie got made.
First, I enjoyed your movie very much.
Thank you.
You had kind of already answered my question because I recognize the Mexican, the little figurine that he sees in Mexico looked like the one in The Exorcist. Right, and so it's interesting. So that was a movie thing in the 70s, which is now sold in Mexico or is it sold as something referring to The Exorcist? Is it?
No, I made the one in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sculpted it.
Right.
And we made a mold and we cast it.
Okay.
But the one that you can buy is an American sculpt statue made by the folks who made The Exorcist, or at least licensed by them. And this Pazuzu statue, I have all the molds, so expect to see that on sale at some point. And while I'm talking about the miniatures, who enjoyed the stop motion in this film? Then I should probably tell you that was not stop motion. So as a stop motion animator, I desperately wanted to have a stop motion creature. I love the Ray Harryhausen films, like Golden Voyage of Sinbad, where Sakura is sort of like lording over this little stop motion homunculus, on the ship. And I wanted to make a scene like that. But we couldn't afford to do stop motion because it would have meant having the set for a month. So I could go down into the basement every day and animate this thing. And that basement set, the basement of the church, was a space that we had for 2 days. So there was no way it could be stop motion. So the same team that made the Market Demon made a puppet version of the desiccated minor demon, and we flew their puppeteers up from Mexico City to Seattle, where we shot the film, and they puppeteered it, and then through the magic of VFX, removed the green rods and added some eye blinks. But to me, if I had my way, it would have been stop motion, so I worked really hard to try to make it look like stop motion, so I hope that worked.
Anybody else?
Hey, did you have a hard time getting them to convince you to use the church?
We may have not shown them the full script. we may have just shown them the extremely inspirational sermon. So yeah, I don't think at any point they asked to see a full script, but they were very, very, very cool. I mean, they were Unitarian. We changed the sign so it looked like a Catholic church, but they were like Unitarian. They were like very chill. So yeah, they were super cool about everything.
Okay, what was the main obstacle that you found to produce the movie, to make it true? Because that's something that caught my attention, is that it took you 15, 20 years to make it happen.
I'm sorry, tell me the first sentence again.
The main obstacle that you found.
The main obstacle. Oh my God, where do I begin? First of all, I wrote this 10 years ago. So the first main obstacle was like feeling that, because I wrote, co-wrote, co-produced, co-directed, and co-starred with my very good friend Jeff Farrell, who plays Red, the servant. He plays Lita's servant. And he had made 3 other films. And the way I met him was that he opened for me in Seattle about 10 years ago. And I'm at my booth, and if you've ever been to one of my shows, you know that my merch booth looks like the world's smallest Hot Topic. There's like a million different things that I sell. And then he had a table that only had one item, and it was a stack of the same DVD. And I said, Jeff, what is this? Is this like a DVD of your live show? And he said, no, I made a feature-length horror film. And I said, how? So I was making stop-motion films all through my childhood. As you already know, I go to New York City. I was working on, I was probably the top stop-motion animator in New York City for 10, 15, 20 years. And my dream was always to make feature-length films, and I could never figure out how to do it. So before this, I wrote a screenplay called Call of the Jersey Devil for me to direct. And I was so naive that I wrote like a $15 million movie. And what I learned shopping that script around was that nobody in their right mind is going to give you the money to make your first feature film. Certainly not 15 million. So what I did was I wrote what I thought was going to be an easy to film, much less expensive movie called The Demonatrix. And then I reached out to my friend and I was like, can you help me make this since you know how to get a feature film made? So the biggest obstacle, well, or as I used to like to say before having made The Demonatrix, oh, I get it now. In order to be able to make a feature film, you have to have made a feature film. So the biggest obstacle was realizing that we were just gonna have to do it ourselves. And then we did some crowdsourcing, and luckily I have extremely generous fans who listen to my music, who pitched in, and many of you saw your names in the credits, because thank you very, very much. But that was the biggest hurdle, was understanding that your first feature film, you're just gonna have to find the money and make it. So write a script for something that's not too expensive.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Aurelio Voltaire, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Make sure you guys, if you have your ballots for audience choice, go turn them in right now. Turn them in right now. You have about 15 minutes. Then come on back, because we're going to start our award ceremony.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yes. On the ballot, there's this one film called Demonatrix. That's the one you're supposed to check. They forget to put the instructions on there.